Ray and Ayden right now. We are co-fronting. We didn't really plan to co-front today for this video, but it just sort of happened, and we wanted you to kind of see what that's like when we do co-front and when we are both in control of the body. So you might notice that our voices a little bit kind of mixed of both of our voices. That tends to happen a lot too. And so yeah, that just is a thing that happened today. I don't know if it'll change throughout the video, but right now that's where we're at. But anyway, I didn't come to actually talk to you about co-fronting. I wanted to talk to you about switching and what that looks like for our system, and also just what it looks like in general for a lot of OSDD systems. Now, that's not to say our experience is going to be the same as any other OSDD system. Switching is kind of something that is very different with every system, whether it be a DID or an OSDD system. Like, our symptoms and our experiences are always going to be a little bit different, and that's okay. But we wanted to at least share what our experience is with switching and sort of just what it feels like, what it looks like, that sort of thing. First, I wanted to address what exactly does a switch look like from the outside perspective. To be quite honest, unless you really know what to look for, you're probably not going to be aware that a switch occurred. Unless you've known the system for a while and you're really familiar with the members of the system, you're probably not going to really notice that a switch happened. This is usually like a very covert disorder, which means that it's a hidden disorder, and the symptoms are pretty subtle enough that you're not really going to know that that person is a system. I mean, it's meant to protect us, so we're not going to be very obvious about our switches in public, of course, because that would draw attention to us, and we don't want that. Some things you can look for that kind of give you an indication that a switch is about to happen, at least in our situation. What happens to us is we will get very dissociated, which means that we kind of just get disconnected from everything, and you'll notice that we space out a lot, like we'll kind of like stare off into space. We also tend to get really quiet for a while, like you may not hear us talking for a while. That doesn't mean like just because we're quiet we're gonna switch, but I'm just giving you an indication that that does happen before we switch. So yeah, we get really quiet, really spacey, and when that does happen, a lot of people's first instinct is to check on us and make sure we're okay, which is fine, but keep in mind we may not be able to give a really immediate response just because we are dissociated and we might be very out of it. So don't freak out if we don't really respond well. It just kind of happens, and you just sort of have to let it take its course until the switch is finished or we stop dissociating. So yeah, that tends to happen. You also might want to know, what does a switch feel like for us? Like I said, we will get super dissociated and spacey. Also, our vision tends to get a little bit blurrier. It's almost kind of like when you go cross-eyed and you can't really focus on anything. That tends to happen with us. Also, another symptom we tend to get a lot when we are very switchy is we will get a headache that'll just suddenly come on or will start to form. And I guess from what I've heard, that's actually very common with a lot of DID and OSDD systems to get those switch headaches. So that is a thing that also we will experience. And strangely enough, after the switch happens, it kind of doesn't really go away completely, but the severity of it kind of dissipates a little bit. So a lot of times we will get headaches if we are trying to fight a switch, and that's not really a good thing to do. Like, we shouldn't fight switches, but it's kind of just an instinctual thing sometimes. Like, if someone's trying to take over, you just kind of don't want to really let go of the control. So a lot of times you will try to like cling to the front, and that's not really a good thing to do, but it does happen. And when that does happen, you will start to feel very awful, and like the symptoms will get so much worse. So honestly, It's probably a lot better when we just let the switch happen. Our switches aren't really quite just like a sudden like jolt to someone else. Like I know some systems will get more of that distinct switch. Like they can usually, like I know some systems will describe it as like a passing of the baton to someone else, or someone just like suddenly just takes control and takes over. With us, it's kind of a little more like, the way I describe it is, I like to think of us as like all having different volume controls. So for example, like with Ray, it would be like one volume control. With Ayden, it would be another volume control. And when we're about to switch, or we are in the process of switching, it's sort of like you're turning down one volume control and turning up the other volume control for the other person. So it's kind of more like a subtle like fade in, fade out type of thing. And sometimes it's so subtle that we don't always realize at first that a switch happened, and it kind of takes a moment to reorient ourselves. Even though we don't experience the amnesia between switches, it's still kind of an odd experience. We also wanted to address what to do if you do witness a switch happening. Like if you can kind of tell that your system friend did do a switch, or you're not sure if they switched, kind of like how to react to it. First of all, don't panic. Second of all, don't be afraid to ask like who you're talking with. We're not going to be offended in any way, at least like us in particular. We'll never take offense to it. So like if you do notice like, oh hey, they're acting like they're about to switch, or it looks like they might have just switched but I'm really not sure, like don't be afraid to be like, oh hey, who am I talking with by the way, or hey, who is this? We usually will be pretty okay with letting you know, and that's totally fine. As long as you're being respectful about it, it's totally okay. Since we don't experience any type of amnesia between switches, we don't really need anybody to like fill us in on what's happening, or for you to ask like, oh hey, do you know what we're talking about? We're probably gonna know just fine what's happening. Basically when we switch, like one person will just pick up where the other left off, and since like we all kind of share the same memories, we're gonna be fine honestly with that. Just don't panic. Don't be afraid to ask who it is you're talking with if you're not sure. Again, we're never going to be offended by that. If anything, we'll be honored that you care enough to know who it is you are interacting with, and that you do see us as individual people, because we are our own people. Like we are all different, even though we kind of share the same body, like the same skin, we all still want to be seen as different people. And the fact that you are willing to get to know us individually and see us as individual people honestly means a lot to us. So yeah, don't be afraid to ask, it's fine. The other thing we wanted to address is exactly what causes a switch to occur. So there are a lot of different triggers that can cause a switch. It might have been a negative trigger of some kind that made a certain person feel like they needed to come forward and handle that situation. A lot of times it can be a positive trigger as well, and what we mean by that is it could be a favorite song that somebody likes, it could be a favorite food, it could just be something in the outer world they felt like they wanted to be a part of. A lot of people tend to think that, oh well, if it's a negative thing, now that the situation's been taken care of, so-and-so should be able to switch back again. Usually like it's the host, like Ray. Oh, okay, like now that the situation's been handled, can't Ray just switch back and everything's fine again? Well, that's not always exactly how it works. We don't exactly have any sort of control over switches, usually. I mean, yes, we could force a switch out with some sort of a trigger, usually like a positive trigger, but it's not always going to be the case. So that's pretty much how switching works for us. If there's any particular question that we didn't answer that you would like to know, feel free to leave it in the comments and we'll do our best to answer it. Sorry, I'm dissociating really badly. I've been filming for a while, so I'm a little spacey. Anyway, so yeah, that's pretty much all I can think of to address. Hold on. So the thing I was talking about earlier with dissociating and what it looks like, this is pretty much it. Like, we will just, like, all thoughts will go out the window and we are just gone. So I'm trying to wrap up this video the best way that I can. As you can tell throughout this video, it kind of started more with Ray and now it's more me. So as you've been watching this video, pretty much a switch has been occurring. And it's pretty much done at this point. Like, I am now Ayden, as you can probably tell. So that was kind of a thing that happened as we were filming this video. But yeah, like, if there's anything that we missed in this video that you, like a particular question you want to answer about it, feel free to leave that in the comments and we will do our best to answer. But for now, I'm gonna go ahead and wrap this video up. If you enjoyed this, please leave a like and subscribe to our channel if you want to see more of us in the future. And if you are a subscriber, you can hit the bell and it will notify you of any future videos that we do. We also do have a Twitter. It is Patchwork System, so feel free to follow us on there. Thank you so much for watching, and we will see you in some future videos. Bye!